Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to day 3 of the Blog for Better SEO challenge. Let me see here. I just want to make sure we are live. Okay, good. Let's see. How's everyone doing this morning? How have you been enjoying the challenge so far? How did you do yesterday with the blog post ideas? Did you get to 25? Did you struggle to get to 25? Hi, Dawn. Hi, Nicole. Nicole says, I played around with Chat GPT last night too, and all I can say is, wow. Yes, it's absolutely insane what you can do. And there's a lot of different ways to phrase the questions to Chat GPT to get the most out of it. If you missed yesterday's challenge day, definitely go back and watch the replay. It's right under streams on our YouTube channel. Let me just pull that up really quick and make sure we're coming in loud and clear. If you can hear me, let me know just to make sure. I did turn off my sound so that we don't get any distractions during our time on here today. Okay, perfect. Looks like... Yeah, okay, good. Looks like it is working, and we've got a bunch of you on here already. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. Dawn, I can answer that question at the end about magic, right? But you basically just go into any Canva document file. It's under Canva documents, and you can add it in that way. Do like a / and then type in magic, right? And it pops up for you on a Canva document, not a Canva graphic, if that makes sense. So how did you all do again with the... right there. Nicole says I found it in Canva Docs. Awesome. Hi, Julie. Welcome. Hi, April. April says, good morning. I was inspired and wrote 2 blog posts yesterday. Oh, this is what I love to hear. That is so, so exciting. Janelle says, I can hear you. Okay, great. Dawn, I can hear you. Perfect. Thank you. I don't have my sound on this morning, so I can't hear myself, so I hope it's coming through. Evan says, I have 2 blog posts I am working on now. Wonderful. So today is going to be super relevant for you guys. So if you already have followed along with the challenge so far, you're feeling super motivated and ready to get started, you've got your blog post topic ideas, you've got your cadence, you know what you're going to be writing. Really, really important, right, to commit to that the best you can within your own restrictions of what's available to you at this moment in terms of free time. That's totally okay. But go back and listen to day 1 and day 2 if you've missed them so far. And then today we're going to talk about formatting your blog post and what that looks like and how to properly format your blog post so that way it's going to rank the best in search engines. Because if you're going through the effort of writing this content, we want to make sure that you're optimizing it for search, that we're optimizing it for search engines, so search engines like Google can understand your content. And there's a lot you should do to optimize your site in general, right? Not just your blog. That's what my course, Creative SEO, is all about. We talk about blogging too, but we talk about just SEO in general. Today, we're going to be focusing specifically on your blog posts, and I'll talk about Creative SEO, our course, a little bit later. But today I wanted to go over formatting your blog post, what that looks like, how you should be formatting your post content. And for me, as I mentioned yesterday, I love Notion. I'm obsessed with Notion, huge Notion fan over here. And I'm going to draft my blog post in Notion to kind of show you how I would set things up. And then you can draft them wherever you want to. Some people like to use Google Drive. I don't recommend writing your posts directly on the website tool that you're using. So I don't recommend, and this might seem, make sure my mic's here, it might seem counterintuitive, because you're like, oh, well, it's going to go on Squarespace or WordPress or wherever you're blogging anyway, so why wouldn't I just blog on that platform? I don't recommend that because I have had a few people who have accidentally either stopped paying for their hosting because they forgot about it or they missed the email or something happened and their site was deleted and they lost all of their blog content that they worked on. That is a very rare circumstance, and usually it's our own fault. It's just something that kind of happens by accident, but it can happen, and it's really, really important that you have a backup of your blog posts. That's why I like to write them in something like Google Docs or Notion. I'm a Notion fan myself, and then transfer everything over to WordPress or Squarespace or whatever you're using later. Notion put me on the waiting list. That's awesome. That's just for, you can use Notion now. Notion is completely free to use. You can sign up for a free Notion account. What I sent you the link yesterday to was Notion's AI. So Notion, same thing like with ChatGPT, Notion is coming out with their own version of it. That was a question by April. Notion's coming out with their own version of it, which I'm really, really excited about. So that's coming soon. But in the meantime, Notion is free to use. You can sign up. You can check Notion out. Very, very cool tool. And I can put a link to try Notion as well. I pay for it. I think it's like $4 a month or something like that. But it's also totally free. I only pay for it because I store a ton of content in Notion. I upload tons of videos. I back up all of my kind of like business related files there. So I use a ton of space, but Notion is free for the average user. And unless you have a team or anything like that, you probably don't need to worry. Even if you do have a small team, you can use Notion for free. It's a fantastic product and I really, really love it. And I'll show you some of the features specifically about Notion or within Notion that I love for drafting blog posts. And I'll show you how I would structure a blog post inside of Notion. I have videos already about my content calendar in Notion. I'm not going to go too much into that because for those of you that aren't using Notion, you won't find this relevant. But for laying out your blog post, I can show you how I do that inside of Notion, and then we can go from there. But April, definitely check out Notion in general if you haven't already. And it sounds like you're already on the wait list for their AI, which is very similar to ChatGPT or Magic Write, but it's built directly into Notion, which is so cool. Okay, let's dive in here. I've got a little matcha latte this morning. Let me share my screen. Okay. There we go. Okay. Hopefully I stay in the center of this little section here. Here, let me actually move my camera just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So now you can see this is what a blog post looks like in Notion. And if you are very familiar with Google Drive or Google Docs, this is going to seem really similar to you. And again, you can use Google Docs, use whatever you're comfortable with. I just wanted to show you what this looks like for me and how I would actually format a post as I'm getting ready to draft it. We'll talk about some best practices today for structuring your blog post, all of that. So inside of Notion, and again, same thing with Google Docs, you have a title at the top, a title for the document, and then you have the actual content. And in Notion, you use the / key to add things to your document. Inside of Google Drive, you just basically can, like, I think, what is it? Like, you can insert images or insert different things, but you can really just type as well into this. So what I typically would do is I would take this blog post, and actually, while I have this up, let's look at, I want to pull up that example from yesterday just to kind of show you. Let me make sure I have it saved. I think I do. Perfect. Let's use this one from yesterday. I'm going to literally just paste in this outline I had yesterday. And our sample title that I was working with was, I think it was something like how to include pets in your Cape Cod wedding. There we go. Okay, that was the title that I had. I put that in there. This is the outline that I got from yesterday. I'm going to edit all of this and I'm going to show you how I structure it, but I think it's easier to start with content than to start from a blank page. One thing to keep in mind when you are writing titles for your blog posts, it's really handy to use terms that your ideal clients are searching. So for an example, this is just, one example post. Try to apply this to your industry. For example, if I had included furry friends, how to include your furry friends in your Cape Cod wedding. When you Google things about your pets, about your dog, do you ever search like best food for your furry friends or, best brush for long-haired furry friends, right? No, you don't. You would pretty much always search your pets or your dog, right? So it's important to think about who your ideal client is and the vocabulary that they're using. Another example of this for photographers that I see a lot is like they'll call a newborn session a fresh 48, meaning like that 48 hours after a newborn is born is a Fresh 48 session. But most people who are not photographers have no idea what that is. And so you might write a blog post about a Fresh 48, but a lot of people are sitting there like, I have no idea what that is. So they're not actually searching for that, and they're less likely to read that content. And you can apply that to enter any industry, right? You as an expert in the web design or branding industry might use different terminology than somebody who is a small business owner trying to DIY or maybe looking for a designer. So it's important to think about who that person is that you are targeting and what vocabulary they currently have that you can work with them. The other thing to think about is just in general when you're writing, you're usually writing for about a 10-year-old's reading level. We are not trying to use crazy fancy words. We want somebody to be able to get the most value out of this content quickly. And we don't want them to have to struggle getting through it or have to use a thesaurus or a dictionary. And even if you're like, okay, I have a pretty highbrow clientele, it's still important that they can skim through your blog post quickly and get information out of it. That doesn't mean you can't add a little bit of personality or be clever in your writing. You just want to be careful that you're not using terminology that's going to isolate yourself or just kind of make your readers feel not smart enough to consume your content. And you want it to be easy for them. You don't want them to have to work to consume it. You want it to make sense. You want it to be easy. And the whole goal is to get the information out of the piece. Maybe you mix in a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of your personality in there too, but really it's about the information and the content. So for this example, how to include your dog in your Cape Cod wedding. This is a great way. Another one could be 5 ways to include your dog in your Cape Cod wedding, or 5 things to know before like bringing your dog to your Cape Cod wedding, or including your dog in your Cape Cod wedding. So people love listicles. People love 5 tips, 5 ways, 3 ways, 8 steps, whatever it is. 8 steps is kind of a lot, but you get the idea. People love that too. So you want to think of something. Your post title should include keywords that people know, words that people are familiar with. It should also include something that's going to get them interested in the content. So like, why should they read this post versus something else? And you don't want it to be too long and too wordy. This is probably about as long as I would go. I wouldn't add too much more to this. The other thing to think about too is if you're writing about your work or your clients, don't put your clients' names in there. Don't put information about your clients that only your clients would know. Try to include content that potential clients would be searching for. So instead of including, the business's name that you designed a logo for example, you want to include the details of that logo, the type of business, the style of that logo, so that somebody else looking for inspiration is going to come across that. If you are somebody who did a travel plan for, like you're a travel advisor and you did a travel plan for a family, instead of talking about the family, you're going to be talking about the places that they wanted to go, the type of things they were looking for in that trip, right? Like, what is their personality? And so that way somebody who's looking for a similar trip can find that blog post, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to do 5 things to know before including your dog in your Cape Cod wedding. Or let's go back to 5 ways to... We're gonna go back to basics here. How to include your dog in your Cape Cod wedding. The next thing we're gonna do is think about how we want to break up this post. Typically, and we're going to enter this down. Typically, it's gonna start with an introduction. And really, this introduction is a hook. And can you all see this okay? Is this large enough for you? And I can actually... How's that? Now we're even bigger. Whew, there we go. Nice and big. All right, so this section up here, it's a little too big. There we go. This section up here is going to be a hook. The really important thing is this first sentence or 2 should affirm that your readers are in the right place, They are going to learn what was promised in the title. And it should include keywords related to the title and your ideal clients. So basically, the first sentence of your post is meant to grab them in but it's also meant to just reaffirm that this post is actually about the thing that you promised with your heading. Oh, good. Okay, good. You can see it better zoomed in. This post should actually be about the thing that we talked about in the heading. You don't just want to dive right into the content. You really want to have that hook there to get them excited and reintroduce the topic again. Not only is this great for search engines because you're basically saying, hey, this post is actually about this thing, but we are also letting people know that they're in the right place, because there's a lot of clickbait out there. People are used to clickbait where they find this article in Google, they click over, and the article is not actually about what they thought it was going to be about. So it's important to have this in your hook here. So this is usually a sentence or two. The other thing to keep in mind is that your paragraphs should be short and sweet, only 1 to 3 sentences per paragraph. So, and I'm going to pull some, how many of you have heard of, I'm a web designer, so I do this all the time, but like cupcake ipsum or lorem ipsum, it's like fake text. So I'm actually going to create some fake text for you. And I use this on website templates just to like have text in here. We're just going to put in some fake text in here. So this, you can see it's literally just cupcake related words. I just found this on the internet. It's cupcakeipsum.com, and you can pull in fake text that we're just going to use for a visual for this particular demo. Okay, so here we have 2 paragraphs. This probably looks very similar to an essay that you would have written in high school or college, where a paragraph has several sentences. It, looks about this size. For the web, when you're writing for the web versus for an essay in college, right? It's very different. And so on the web, you want to have really nice, short, sweet paragraphs. So this is what you might have written in college. Paragraphs look like this. On the internet, we're talking more paragraphs like this. And maybe even like one sentence on its own. See how much easier that is to read? And even better, we want headings. So this section here in Notion, I can actually change this. So I can, if you're a Notion lover like me, again, you can do this. You can do this exact same thing in Google Docs, but inside of Notion, I want to turn certain sentences into headings and call out certain things. So in your post, you're only going to have, if you've been following me for a while and you've watched a bunch of my SEO lessons or you've done my SEO challenges, you know that really you should only have one heading 1 per page. And that's your title for your blog post. That's it. That's the only heading 1 on a page. You can have multiple heading 2s, heading 3s, but they really should be, they should have a hierarchy to them. So you should have heading 2s as your next down, and then heading 3s nested under those heading 2s. So only one heading 1, that's done, that's your title. Now let's break this up and add in some heading 2s. So we've got our introduction up here. We're going to delete this. There we go. Our little introduction and our hook. In Notion, you just type /. I'm going to type turn into. I'm going to turn this into an H2. There we go. And then I'm also going to turn this into an H2. There we go. And then let's have this. This is going to be an H3. And I'm just showing you what this should look like. And you can already see how much better and easier this is to skim than this content here, which just looks overwhelming. Most of us now have shorter attention spans, and it's harder for us to, if we're just trying to get content, if we're just trying to understand something quickly, it's harder for us to skim content when it's all lumped together like this. So it's nice to keep these really short and sweet paragraphs. Something like this. There's an H3. Maybe this is also an H3. There we go. So you can see we've got an H2, some more content, and then maybe I'm just going to use this again. Actually, we'll use this again. And this will be another H2. So the H3s, it's a little tough to see here because the font size is not that different. But on your website, when you copy and paste this over to your website, you're going to have your own styles for your H2 and your H3, your heading 2s and your heading 3s. So you're going to have your heading 1 is your title, that introduction. Then we're going to jump into a heading 2. a little bit of content about that particular subtopic. Maybe there's some subtopics, those heading 3s here, right? The tart muffin and the bonbon marshmallow. Then we're going to come back to a heading 2 again and kind of go through the posts like that. So this is what it's going to look like all broken up. Much, much easier to read. All right, let's get rid of some of this demo text for now, and we're going to actually work through as if this is the content that I pulled yesterday from Canva Magic, right? Is it perfect? No. Am I going to use it word for word? No. If I were actually writing this post, I would not. I would create my own. I would use this as a starting point, and then I would pull from it, but I'm just going to kind of organize this and break it up into these different steps, or into like as if this were an actual post. So in this case, these are actually like numbered. What are the steps? So this is actually 1, 2, set up a pet-friendly venue, including your pet in your ceremony, letting your pet be part of the reception, and giving your pet the perfect outlet. So I guess this actually is 5 steps. So let's make this 5 steps to include your dog in your Cape Cod wedding. Perfect. So what would this be, right? This should be an H2. So we're going to do turn into H2. Same thing for this here. There we go. This one doesn't really have subtopics, so there's not going to be, or any subtopics, so there's not going to be any H3s in this particular post. And this is much too short. But this is just the outline, remember? This is just the outline that we did yesterday. So these are all H2s. And then at the end here, we might have another H2 that wraps it all up. Some sort of, I wouldn't put conclusion here as the title, but I would put some sort of like last call to action. Maybe it's something like, let's see what we could call this. Could be something along the lines of, want the best possible, or maybe this person is actually, let's pretend this person is actually, I think I originally said wedding photographer. Let's do wedding planner for this one. Need help planning your, is Cape Cod? Yeah, Cape Cod wedding. Hi, I'm Sarah, making this up. I'm a wedding planner located in XYZ city, and I would love to help you plan, making this all up, wedding of your dreams, along with your furry friends. So here I'm using furry friends because, again, this is not the most important text on the page. It's all the way at the bottom. I've already said dog in the title. I've written about dogs or pets throughout. And I might probably change this because who's including their cat in their wedding? Let's just make this all dogs as an example. Photographing your dogs. Pet, that's friendly, fine. Okay, perfect. So now we have the basic outline, of this post. Let's move that up. Just get rid of some of the spacing here. Whoops. And then we'll turn that back into an H2. There we go. So this is kind of a conclusion, and this conclusion should have a call to action. What are you telling the reader to do after they have read this post? Is it view your work? And this could be for any industry. Is it view your work? Is it get in touch? Is it read another related post? Whatever it is, you want to have a call to action at the bottom of this post, because what we learn about people, if you've studied psychology at all or conversion optimization, right? If you tell them what to do, they're so much more likely to do it. And it's not that they wouldn't have had that idea otherwise, but this little gentle push of just saying reminder, it's not even a push, it's a reminder at the end of this post to say, if you enjoyed this post, if you liked this post, if you want to learn more, here are some options, and you give them the options of what you want them to do next. So what I would do in this case, going back up, we have your H1 at the top. We have your heading 2s as the different kind of like just breaking the post down into sections. In this case, it's 5 steps, but you can use heading 2s throughout your post just to kind of separate it out, even if you don't have clear-cut steps. There's still probably different things that you want to call out in your post, that you want to bring attention to in your post, and that's why it's important to use these headings to really break it up. So what I would do next is come in here and build this out. I'm going to put some cupcake ipsum in here. And we're just going to fill out this content a little bit more. And like I said, if you followed yesterday, so far I have actually not written anything in this post. We came up with a title. I have my introduction hook, which isn't actually written, but I just put that in there as a note for you all. Then I have this outline that we pulled from Canva Magic Write, and I'm going to take this, and I would probably go in and rewrite what I got from Canva Magic Write, but use that as a guide. And then I would fill in, I'm just filling in some more random cupcake ipsum in here to fill out the post. And there we go. We have a great blog post. The next step would be to add some images in there. Maybe you add an image, you find 2 or 3 of these steps, or maybe you have one image for every step that's relevant to it. So you might add that in, put some images in here. You want to make sure that you are renaming the file names of those images and adding alt text, which is a really great best practice to have, basically renaming the images based on what's in that image. So you could have like dog, dog-beach-wedding-Cape Cod or something like that would be a great name for your image. And typically when I'm naming images, I always want to have a rule of thumb is to be short and sweet, image file names, and a few main keywords relating to the image. That's important. By hyphens. So it could be dog, beach, wedding, Cape Cod, .jpg. It could be dog, wedding, Cape Cod, .jpg. It could be dog, wedding, venue name, .jpg. It could be dog, and it doesn't even have to be, it could be wedding, dog, bride, and then like another town that's nearby in Cape Cod, something like that. So you get the idea of how I would do this. And you would do this for all images, again, regardless of your industry. You're always going to want to name the images. It should relate to the image, not the post. The images should be related to the post, but the titles of the images should be related to the images themselves. So that way you're not just randomly naming the images based on what's in the post, because you want the images to kind of stand alone. They'll bring people in through Google image search. They'll help your post rank in general, but you want those image file names to be really relevant to what's actually in the image. So then once I have this, I'll go through, I'll edit it. One thing I love about Notion is you can actually work with somebody else on this post. So say I was like, I'm gonna take a sip of my matcha, my tea. Okay. For example, say I have somebody on my team who helps me write a lot of my content now. I did not used to have that. I used to do everything myself, but now I have a little bit of support, which makes a huge difference. But I go through every post with her before it goes live, and I will come in here, and you can actually comment and be like, this is redundant or something like that. Or is there a better way to say this? Or I love this, right? So you can actually leave comments, and you can see those comments here, and then you're able to resolve them. So very similar to Google Docs, if you're familiar with that. I love that. I also love how you can come in here, you can bold text, you can italicize text, and it will stick when you copy and paste this over to your actual website builder, right? Whatever you're using, whether you're using Squarespace, WordPress, whatever it is, show it. You can copy and paste this over to your blog, and it'll save all of this formatting for the most part. I always go through and check it one more time at the end to make sure that everything looks good, but it's still really nice to have like a base down, and you're copying and pasting it. It comes over really cleanly to your website platform of choice. So that's it. That's how I would structure a blog post. Again, this would maybe have some images in here. So I might do like an image here, and I'd actually put the image in, and inside of Notion, you just hit that / type in image. You can add an image, and I can actually, I wonder if it will let me unsplash. There we go. We'll find some nice images. Another cool thing about, not unsplash. Image, unsplash. Let's see if we can find, how cute is that? Okay, there we go. Now we've got our post starting to come together. We've got some images in there, right? Maybe we add one image for each section here. Cute. That looks like more of an engagement shoot, but whatever. Yeah, so that's how I would kind of set this up. And you can see how it's starting to look. It's starting to come together. We've got images. We've got headings. We've got everything in the right order. We've got a really strong introduction that's got keywords, and it brings the reader in, and it reaffirms that they're reading the post that they actually clicked over to read. And yeah, this looks really good. And a call to action at the end. Tie it all off with a nice call to action at the end. What should they do after reading your post? Ali says I'll have to add the hyphen to my file names. It's not the end of the world. The nice thing is that having a space in there, it turns into a %20 when Google actually picks that up and it becomes part of the URL, which is not the end of the world, but it can be a little tricky. Like, you want to make it as obvious as possible to Google that this is a space, these are separate words, and having the hyphen just makes it really, really clear. Does Notion make it responsive for mobile when transferring to the website? Don, so that completely depends on your website builder. Most website builders do this automatically. This is literally just like a text editor. So I'm creating the content here. You're going to move this all over to your website platform, which I know is an extra step, but I really like to have a copy of my blog saved. So that way I can really easily move it over, or I can have a backup of it. And even if something happened to my website, hopefully it doesn't, but if it got hacked or something like that, it's just nice to have it saved somewhere else. So I will copy this, put it over to my website, and it's just like you wrote it through your website, but we have a backup of it now. And I like working here too, because it's really easy to collaborate with different people if you have somebody who's editing your content. And I think I mentioned this earlier too, but if you are somebody who feels like you're not a great writer and you really struggle with it, you can just hire an editor. You can write the first draft of the blog post, and you can hire an editor. You can go on Fiverr. If you haven't heard of Fiverr, it's a really great site that basically just makes it so that you can hire somebody to just like basically do anything. Design, well, I probably wouldn't recommend them for designing a logo, because not great for those type of tasks, but it is great for somebody to just like read over your content, or somebody to edit your blog post, or you can even hire somebody on Fiverr to move your blog post from Notion or Google Drive over to your website. Really, really cool, and just a super easy way to hire somebody. The premise of the site is like, you can hire anyone to do any type of work for you for $5 is like the starting price. Fiverr, that's hence the name. A lot of stuff ends up costing more than $5 because there's add-ons and things like that, but for basic stuff, for like editing a post that you've already written and just checking it for grammar, if that's something that you like really don't want to do or aren't comfortable with, you could definitely hire somebody on Fiverr to do that. Terry, you can use underscores. I've always found that hyphens is like the closest thing to spaces, and that's kind of what I've seen Google recommend in the past. It's not the end of the world. Google, they're pretty smart. They can kind of figure that out, but I've always found that hyphens is like the closest thing to a space, because the space, again, creates, if you add a space, it makes no sense, but the space adds a %20. So then, should we put the hyphen in the alt text too, Ali? No. So the alt text is more of like a short sentence describing your photo. It's a little bit more written for humans, whereas the file name is really short and sweet. The alt text can be just a little bit more of like a one sentence. Basically, I always think of it as like the W's, the who, what, where, and when of the image. So who are the subjects of the image, what's happening in the image, where is it happening, and when. Like, is it seasonal? Is it winter? Is it spring? Whatever it is, you can have all of those in there. Not all of those, but you can try to incorporate some of those in there. And then I find that if you have multiple images that kind of have the same look and feel or the same vibe, and you're like, this is literally like the same subjects and it's just a slightly different variation of that image, come up with a different variation of the same file name and alt text. So just rewrite it in a different way. Same kind of content, but just rewrite a different way. You really ideally don't want to have duplicate alt text. So for like this particular example, all these posts contain dogs. So I might put the keyword dog in all of the file names, or I might do like golden retriever, or if it mattered, it doesn't really matter for this post, but I might do like golden retriever or chocolate lab wedding or something like that, right? So totally up to you how you want to incorporate it, but I just recommend finding that variety. Same thing, I know Julie in here she's watching, she's a travel advisor. If you have multiple pictures of the same destination, it's like, what specific neighborhoods are you in for that photo? Not just the city, but like what neighborhoods within the city? Is there any points of interest that are in a particular photo? Is there something unique about the photo? Who are the people in the photo? If there's no people and it's more landscape, like, what's the time of day? Like, think about all the different types of things you can include, because people might be searching for that. I always think of my images as something I'm like sending out into the world and trying to diversify the keywords as much as possible to bring people back in. I just realized I'm like all blue today, and this like it's very blue. Even my background, I've got some blue things in there. I love the color blue, so I'm cool with that, but it's just funny. Okay, any questions? I wanted to go over what we're going to talk about tomorrow a little bit, and if you have not already, I want to tell you about my course, Creative SEO. It's our signature course. We are in the process of making some major changes to our course platform in general. So in the past, all of our courses have been hosted on a platform called Podia, which I love. Still going to use that. It's great for digital products and things like that, but we have been using Circle more and more, which is our community platform, and we're making a huge push with that to really develop our community this year, the local creative community. So my signature program, Creative SEO, Simplified Designer, are going to be, Simplified Designer's already moved in there, but Creative SEO is next. So we are basically going to take this existing course that I've had for several years now. We add content to it every year, but we're going to go through the entire thing this year. We're going to re-record and update a ton of the content in there and move everything over to our new course platform inside of the local creative community. So we're going to be tweaking all that content, bringing it over, making a ton of updates. I am so excited about this, and we are going to offer it this week for you to be able to join right before we move everything over. So you're getting in right before we start that process of moving all of the content over and updating all of the content in the program, meaning you'll actually get access to everything new that comes into it, which I'm really excited about. And that goes into specifics of actually optimizing your entire site from start to finish, making changes to your site that are SEO friendly. We go into some link building strategies and just in general, making sure that your site is in tip-top shape when it comes to ranking in search and beating your competition. We talk about blogging. You'll get access to my program, 12 Months of Blogging, which has 12 monthly blog prompts for what you can write about in your business each and every month to make sure that your blog stays active, right? It's always nice to have a guide to follow that walks you through what keywords you should be including, what content you should be writing. And you probably came up with some great ideas too, but this kind of supports you through with a step-by-step guide. So that's going to be available starting tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to open it and do one last big push of that program before we update everything and move it over to our new course platform, which I cannot wait for you to see inside. And when you join, you'll also get access to our community during that time. Yes, Julie. So because you are already in that program, you will have access. We're going to be basically, depending on when you joined, we're basically going to be putting together a bonus where you get free access to that community for a certain amount of time to make sure that you can utilize all the new content that's going into the program, because I want you to basically have access to everything that all those changes that we're making moving forward. So yes, it depends on when you join, you'll still get access no matter what. It's just, we have to get people in different ways, because people join through like different systems in the past, because we've changed some of our like checkout processes and things like that. But we'll be migrating everyone over to this new platform shortly, and then they'll have access to the community as well, which is really, really excited. And some of you already have access to the community, which is awesome, because the course is going to move inside to that community. And anybody who does not have access to the community now but has access to the course will have the option to join the community as well to get access to all the new course content, which is really, really exciting. I just can't wait to put more community into this course and give you more support and be able to check in. I would also, depending on, after this challenge, I've just seen a lot of people getting excited about this, but I would love to put together accountability partners for people in the community, in the program, in creative SEO, so that way, if you're somebody who wants to stay on top of your blogging month after month and really commit to it, you'll have somebody else within the community who's going to commit to that along with you, and you can hold each other accountable and bounce topic ideas off of each other. So really, really excited for that too, to set that up for those that are interested inside of the program. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Should we put, okay, got that one. Julie, do you have any quick tips on making text accessible? I recently got a note from Google that I have to make some changes. Yeah, it depends. So really the biggest thing is formatting your content in the correct way. Like we talked about here, having those headings, having the text. Most screen readers can read that content. Having alt text for your images is really, really important for accessibility, because for somebody who has trouble seeing and is just listening to your website, they're not going to be able to know what's in your images unless you tell them. And so that's why the alt text is important. It's good for keywords, but it's more so about describing what's happening. Those W's, the who, what, where, when of what's in your image, so that people can really understand it. Tom says, does image format matter? Image format does not matter, but what does matter is I won't say it doesn't matter, but I would typically say use a JPEG is the best practice. Use a JPEG image if you can. If your image has a JPEG, JPG, or if your image has transparency, as in it has so you can, like, there's part of it that you can see through, right? Or it's like not a square, there's like a shape to it, right? If you have that, then you can use a PNG, because JPEG doesn't support transparency, but PNG files do. But I would say the biggest thing is just check your image sizes. And I actually am adding a lesson to the program about how I optimize my images to make sure that they are all the correct size and they have been sized down appropriately, because that's a really, really important one. There's already a lesson in there now on that, but we're going to be tweaking that, because I found some really cool new tools that I have used in the past or new tools that I've used in the last few months that I absolutely love, that have just made my life so much easier. So I'm really, really excited to share those with our students inside of Creative SEO. Again, that is launching tomorrow, so I will share more details about that with you tomorrow. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'm going to be doing a big Q&A tomorrow to kind of go through all of your questions from the challenge. Really, really excited. Yes, yeah, Tom, it's all about the sizing. You don't want to have your pages be too large, and really images are what contribute to your page size. Images make a huge dent in your page size. They contribute quite a bit. So it's important to make sure that your pages are not too large, because it'll just slow down the loading speed, and slower pages affect your performance in general, and also impact your performance when it comes to ranking in search. So really, really important for that, because people don't like to wait around for a slow website to load. It's, we want instant gratification, especially on mobile when people are using data and not Wi-Fi. It can be really tough for people to sit around and wait for a page to load. So they usually hit that back button, and that is a signal to Google that your site was not what they were looking for, or didn't load the way that they wanted to, and they will usually leave your site, and that tells Google, hey, the site might not be ranking properly. Let's bump it down a little bit in the search results. Any other questions? We've had a bunch of you on here today. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I love hanging out with you all on these lives. I hope you've been enjoying them. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway is. Oh, and your challenge for today. Very excited. Okay, so for your challenge for today, I want you to map out at least one blog post. And it sounds like some of you have already done this. I want you to map out at least one blog post in the format we talked about here, using Google Docs, using Notion, whatever feels good for you. And you can check out my Notion templates too. I have all of my Notion like content planning templates available. They're for sale on my website, but they're like, I think it's like $7 or something like that. It's very, very affordable. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check that out too. If you want to snag all of my content creation Notion templates. Yes, but those are available. You can use Notion, you can use Google Docs, you can create your own templates on Notion too. It's very, very easy to do. So you can do that, map out your blog post, make sure you have the right headings, make sure you've got your images optimized, make sure you've got everything laid out the way that you want it to. And yeah, that's it for today. Let's see how you do with that one blog post, getting it all mapped out properly. You might have already started it, but it is great to see. It's great to see you putting it in this format and making sure you have everything formatted correctly. Because if you're putting in the effort to write the post, you might as well take that extra step and just make sure everything is formatted correctly, because it only takes a few more seconds and you just get into the habit of it, and it's going to make your life so much easier, and it's going to make your posts more likely to rank in search. Thanks for tuning in today. I really, again, enjoyed hanging out with you. I really appreciate you being here, you showing up, taking the time, and I'm really excited to watch you all on your blogging journeys. I will see you tomorrow. I cannot wait. I will see you tomorrow, and have a wonderful rest of your day.